The Platonic path opens us to the intellectual challenge of pondering metaphysical possibilities. What are we beyond the physical body? Do we have a soul? And if so, what happens to the soul after we die? Is there an afterlife, some heaven-like place? Do we reincarnate? And why are we even here in human form? What is the point of our existence? Why were we even created? What is our relationship to our Creator? And what is our Creator? Questions like these are fascinating to ponder, and they're fun to discuss with friends. For many people, this is what philosophy is all about, engaging in these topics and discussions. Well, these topics certainly do make up a large chunk of what Platonism focuses on. But those who choose to follow the Platonic path are doing far more than engaging in stimulating conversations. This is a path of transformation. We are contemplating the nature of our essence to better understand who we truly are. We want to live more honestly, in line with nature and with ourselves. Letting go, then, of social and family conditioning is a big part of this process. The journey to know thyself can be broadly thought of as having two aspects. The study of metaphysics is the search for truth. But the other side of the coin, the other aspect that we must pay attention to, is the recognition of what is not true. We are all blocked from knowing the true self to the degree that we are still identifying with false images of the self. The mythological sculptor Daedalus is purported to have created works that were so lifelike that they had the unfortunate habit of running away. You have not observed with attention the images of Daedalus, that if they are not fastened up, they play truant and run away. But if fastened, they stay where they are. Like Daedalus, we too are sculptors of a moving, living model, our own soul. We aim to chip away at our conditioning, our learned behaviors, or whatever is left from childhood that does not serve our healthiest goals going forward. In our efforts at purification, there could be a desire to cut too much too soon. After all, metaphysics points us to the insight that we are soul in essence. We are not these bodies. So why not just cut the belief that we are human? That way, any self-images attached to the human form would be instantly cut off. It seems that this metaphysical purification would bypass the more painful psychological forms of purification. It would save so much time and energy to just skip dealing with all of that. This physical world is not ultimate reality. So, the theory goes, why bother dealing with these human issues? And wouldn't it be nice not to have to deal with our insecurities, our doubts, our feelings of inadequacy? Brilliant idea, right? Well, brilliant in theory, perhaps. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually work this way. The great irony is, the more you try to push these pesky beliefs away, the stronger they rage in your life. This may seem counterintuitive on the surface, but it actually makes sense. The soul does not want to hold any false beliefs. When we try to ignore what the soul needs us to look at, the signal to look becomes louder. It is like a neon sign saying, "Look at this." To put it simply, understanding is the only thing that frees us from the power of false beliefs. And perhaps this is the very function and value that false beliefs hold. We can learn from them. We grow more compassionate and understanding, not only of ourselves, but also of others, because we have suffered and come out the other side, stronger and wiser. So understanding is of great value. We have to shine a light on these beliefs. Ignoring the thoughts and feelings that make us uncomfortable does not make them disappear. They are still there, lurking in the dark. Anyone who has ever tried to talk themselves out of an insecurity knows that it does not work. Pep talks are short-lived. This is because limiting false beliefs are deeply ingrained. We learned them when we were very young. They come through our interactions with parents or grandparents or other caregivers. In those interactions, we see those caregivers as trusted adults who know us and love us. And as small children, we saw these adults as knowing and as wise. Through them, an image formed in our hearts of the way things are. We walked away from various interactions with an unspoken conclusion about the world and about our place in it. Some of those conclusions are happy and loving, lessons about teamwork or the warmth of family. Other conclusions, not so happy. We walked away concluding that we were small or unimportant or in the way. Whatever the conclusion, we formed it in a state of childhood innocence. It was formed without words and without analysis. As children, we simply accepted it as true, and it became part of the veil through which we see the world, part of our interpretation of the world around us. Since then, we have forgotten many of the events which resulted in these conclusions, and so the conclusions have never been subjected to analysis. We just believe things without knowing why we believe them. Over time, these beliefs have become second nature to us. As adults, we hold many beliefs that we don't even realize that we hold. Negative, debilitating beliefs do tend to stand out. We see in ourselves insecurities, for example, or an unwillingness to develop close relationships, or maybe a deep sense of loneliness or anger issues. We recognize with our logical thoughts that we are acting on beliefs that are not true. And so we try to talk ourselves out of them, to reason them away. Or maybe we try to find a distraction. Many people turn to drugs or find themselves caught up in other unhealthy addictions, such as to food or to work. Or maybe the distraction is as seemingly harmless as flipping on the TV or scrolling through social media. Take up a hobby, make some new friends. That's the advice that I was often given. It is well-intentioned advice, of course, but it does not address the underlying issues. And many of you watching this video might find that your own limiting self-images are more subtle than this. Maybe a contemplation about the limitlessness of the soul awakens fear in you, or a confusing passage in one of Proclus's works throws you into self-doubt. You don't think you are intelligent enough to understand these difficult sections. And it is not uncommon for feelings of unworthiness to follow beautiful peak experiences. All of these beliefs were formed following the same basic pattern through our interactions when we were very young. Recognizing these childhood patterns, then, is an important first step. If your family was practical-minded and focused on tangible results, for example, then you are likely to struggle with the need to justify a practice of self-exploration that will not earn you a paycheck or social status. If your parents often made you feel that everything you did was wrong, then feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness are likely to stay with you into adulthood and sabotage your goals. Recognizing these patterns can help us turn off the critic in our head who carries on the family dialogue. Oftentimes, that is enough. It is enough to recognize these voices for what they truly are. They are a stale, old image of you. You were never truly that person, and you are certainly not that person now. I can tell you from my own experience that recognizing patterns from childhood will do wonders for your state of mind and for your understanding of yourself. It breaks the identification with the belief. You finally see that I am not that insecurity or that fear or that anger. It is only a belief that I had been convinced of years ago. It is not me, and it is not mine. I let it go. There are numerous times when such insights have allowed me to overcome obstacles that were in my life at that moment. But here's an interesting question. Is it possible to rid ourselves of these beliefs entirely? To free ourselves completely of that poisonous energy? This would require an even deeper level of change. It generally takes the help of a therapist or a philosophical counselor, although it is certainly possible to do some, if not all, of the work on one's own. The old childhood memories have to be recovered. To go further, it is not enough to see the general patterns. We need to see how we came to believe something false in the first place. By recalling the precise moment when the erroneous conclusion was reached, we can reach a different conclusion now and let the energy of that false belief go. I've had the honor and pleasure of learning how false beliefs function from Dr. Pierre Grimes. In addition to being a brilliant Platonic philosopher, he is the founder of the philosophical counseling movement. He first published on this topic back in the 1950s. He calls his methodology philosophical midwifery. When we engage in these methods, we are in a process of giving birth to insights into the belief structure that we hold. Now, I myself regularly engage in philosophical midwifery because even after some 25 years as a Platonist, there is always more to see. I have done videos in the past on this aspect of spiritual life, and you can find them in the playlist called Practical Advice. This is an area that is often overlooked and undervalued. It is dismissed as New Age emotional mumbo jumbo, but it is not that at all. For those of you new to the channel, this video called Exploring False Beliefs introduces a technique based on Dr. Grimes's teachings, and I will release more videos on this topic in the coming months. So I hope this has given you some interesting things to think about. And please do join me for the next video.